Hello, ladies and gents. It's Hagbard Celine here on another beautiful day, and today I have rapidly changed my plans and will be doing a live presentation instead of a scripted one. Because what I was going to do before was a bunch of rapid fire response videos to BuzzFeed. You know, the little BuzzFeed asks 32 questions for whatever race and culture they're trying to get clicks from. I was going to do a bunch of those. Instead, I've decided to read the platform and basic statements of the new Vision for Black Lives, the movement for Black Lives. The new Black Lives Matter. It's an amalgamation of apparently 50 different organizations that supported black issues, or whatever that is. This ought to be exciting. Let's just jump right into this, shall we? Black humanity and dignity requires black political will and power. Just imagine that statement from a white man. Despite constant exploitation and perpetual oppression, black people have bravely and brilliantly been the driving force pushing the United States towards its ideals it articulates, but have never achieved. In recent years, we have taken to the streets, launching massive campaigns and impacted elections, but our elected leaders have failed to address the legitimate demands of our movement. We can no longer wait. Listen to this language. This is inherently threatening language. They don't want to acknowledge that, but this is inherently what you do when you say, I have the right to this and I'm going to take it. You can either give it to me or I take it by force. In response to the sustained and increasingly visible violence against black communities in the United States and globally, a collective of more than 50 organizations representing thousands, just thousands, not they couldn't even list tens of thousands. Mind you, if they could have, they would have listed tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. They could only get it into thousands. Just think about that. Of black people from across the country have come together with renewed energy and purpose to articulate a common vision and agenda. We are a collective that centered we are a collective that centers and is rooted in. You see, this is the English language is falling apart. This has no sentence structure whatsoever. But we recognize we have a shared struggle with all oppressed people. Collective liberation will be a product of our work. They are literally saying they are the black saviors of all people of color. That's their argument here. We believe in here's the intersectional part. It gets real good here. We believe in elevating the experiences and leadership of the most marginalized black people, including but not limited to those who are women, queer, trans, femmes, gender nonconforming, Muslim, formerly and currently incarcerated, cash poor, working class, differently abled, undocumented, and immigrant. We are intentional about amplifying the particular experience of state and gendered violence that black, queer, trans, gender nonconforming women and intersex people face. These are just throwing out buzzwords and saying that if we ignore you, it's probably because you weren't one of these things, and we're setting out with the intention of amplifying these particular experiences. It's not that that means that other experience will be ignored. No, that's the same thing as the all lives, Black Lives Matter argument, and that's just untrue, so it must be patently untrue here, too. There can be no liberation for all black people if we do not center and fight for those that have been marginalized. It is our hope that by working together to create and amplify a shared agenda, we can continue to move towards a world in which the full humanity and dignity of all people is recognized, except filthy white cis het men. While this platform is focused on domestic policies, we know that patriarchy, exploitative capitalism, militarism, and white supremacy know no borders. No, of course not. Wherever there are whites, there is white supremacy, obviously. So the only way to end white supremacy is to end whites. We've gathered this. It's not novel. We stand in solidarity with our international family against the ravages of global capitalism and anti-black racism, human-made climate change, war, and exploitation. We also stand with the descendants of African people all over the world in an ongoing call and struggle for reparations for the historic and continuing harms of colonialism and slavery. Yes, these institutions that are still practiced in Africa and Southeast Asia and Arab countries. But no, just continue to focus on how that has something to do with white people. We also recognize and honor the rights and struggle of our indigenous family for land and self-determination. Yeah, a lot of you guys must not be from America. They've got plenty of land and self-determination there. We have created this platform to articulate and support the ambitions and work of black people. We also seek to intervene in the current political climate and assert a clear vision, particularly for those who claim to be our allies, of the world we want them to help us create. We reject false solutions. Wow, these guys sound creepier every paragraph. And believe we can achieve a complete transformation of the current systems, which place profit over people and make it impossible for many of us to breathe. They're not calling on the I can't breathe incident there at all, are they? No. This hasn't become the language of the people, if you will. I can't even breathe in this system anymore. It's like I can't be myself. Yeah. Together, we demand an end to the wars against black people. We demand that the government repair the harms that have been done to black communities in the form of gimmeboos, reparations, and targeted long-term investments. So you want us to targetedly long-term invest after the reparations as well? Holy fuck. We also demand a defunding of the systems and institutions that criminalize and cage us. They literally just mean defund police forces. This document articulates our vision of a fundamentally different world. Yes, your delusions, your delusions. However, we recognize the need to include policies that address the immediate suffering of black people. These policies, while less transformational, are necessary to address the current material conditions of our people and will better equip us to win the world we demand and deserve. Again, demand and deserve. They're making it clear that this is what's going to happen, but they don't seem to understand that this is the conversation that a Marxist/communist has while saying, look, we don't want the gulags. We don't want things to have to work this way, but they do. We want long-term lofty goals, but we have to understand that it's not going to work quickly. So we have to institute certain policies to make sure these things happen. We recognize that not all of our collective needs and visions can be translated into policy, but we understand that policy change is one of many tactics necessary to move us towards the world we envision. Yes, I get it. You want to change political systems to the way you want them to be so that they're the way you want them to be. This isn't groundbreaking. You're just retards. We have come together now because we believe it is time to forge a new covenant. Religious language, fantastic. We are dreamers and doers, and this platform is meant to articulate some of our vision. The links throughout the document provide the stepping stones and roadmaps of how we get there. The policy briefs also elevate the brave and transformative work our people are already engaged in, and build on some of the best thinking in our history of struggle, except for those that say we probably shouldn't be obsessed with race, because those people are not allowing me racial dynamic. This agenda continues the legacy of our ancestors who pushed for reparations, black self-determination, and community control. Well, you can have self-determination if we also have Hispanic, Asian, and white self-determination and community control. Which means I don't expect to ever speak to a black police officer again. Is that okay? Do you understand how silly this is now? I damn sure better not see any Asian police officers. They hate whites. They call us barbarians. They've called me a barbarian to my face. And also propels new iterations and movements, such as efforts for reproductive justice, holistic healing, and reconciliation. Unending violence against black, cis, queer, and trans people. So just black people. You could just say just black people. The fact that you need to say all this means that some of those people are on a scale. And these are their demands. In short, end the war on black people. Reparations, of course. Invest and divest. Invest where we say divest from policing. Give us money, because that's not the same as reparations. Community control, because that's not the same as war on black people. And divest, and political power. These aren't linked at all. All these things aren't essentially saying give me money and give me power, right? And then also be subservient to my movement. That's not what these demands are. So one by one, let's go through them. End the war on black people. We demand an end to the named and unnamed wars on black people, including the criminalization, incarceration, and killing of our people. All right, let's check it out. End the war on black people. An immediate end to the criminalization and dehumanization of black youth across all areas of society, including but not limited to our nation's justice and educational system, social services agencies, media, and pop culture. So you want them to control media and pop culture somehow. You know that's partially influenced by the black population, especially the part you're crying about, right? This includes an end to zero-tolerance school policies and arrest of students, and removal of police from schools, and the reallocation of funds from police and punitive school discipline practices to restorative services. Good thing you have a lot to go on here. An end to capital punishment, pretty standard. An end to money bail, mandatory fees, court subcharges, and defendant-funded court proceedings. So you want us to pay for your court. You want taxpayers. So how do you defund this and simultaneously do this, you dumb twat? An end to the use of criminal history past to determine eligibility for housing, education, licenses. This has been talked about for 40 years. No one has argued against this in a long time, aside from the big fours. The problem isn't the use of criminal history. The problem is the expansion of the definition of felonies. That's the problem. Okay, I'm not even getting into this. This is just, you fucking got here illegally. I'm not even going into that. They want to end a war on black, trans, queer, and gender non-conforming people, including their addition to anti-discrimination civil rights protections. They're already there by being black and by being queer. These exist already. An end to the mass surveillance of black communities and the end to use of technologies that criminalize and target our communities. Including, literally, they don't want body cameras and they don't want us to use predictive policing software because it says crime happens in this region and those regions happen to be black. They want the demilitarization of law enforcement. We could have a discussion about this one. An immediate end to privatization of police, prisons, jails, yada. Okay, fine, but again, that goes back to the money issue. Do you want to pay higher taxes for it? That's fine. We can have that discussion. Until we achieve a world where cages are no longer used against our people, we demand an immediate change in conditions and the end of public jails, detention centers, youth facilities, and prisons as we know them. This includes the end of solitary confinement. Just let the violent people beat the shit out of each other, and then when they do it to another inmate to get things from them, just be sure to talk them again. It works. The end of shackling of pregnant people, access to quality health care, and effective measures. Wow. These guys just are autistically obsessed. I'm not going to go. There's a ton. If you feel like going through this whole fucking document, you feel free. I'm just reading their bullet points. I'm not going through this whole goddamn thing. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. I'm just going to read the little bullet points here. Reparations. We demand reparations for past and continuing harms. The government, responsible corporations, and other institutions that have profited off the harm they have inflicted on black people. How does one measure any of that, by the way? You'd actually have to be able to measure that to demand reparations. You know that, right? From colonialism and slavery through food and housing redlining, mass incarceration and surveillance, we must repair the harm done. This includes reparations for the systemic denial of access to high-quality educational opportunities in the form of full and free access for all black people, including undocumented and currently and formerly incarcerated people. So just some black immigrants just show up to America, free education, no problem, free access to... This is insane. Retroactive forgiveness of student loans, for black people only, mind you. This isn't for students. This is just for black people. And support for lifetime learning programs. Reparations for the continued divestment from, decriminalization towards, and exploitation of our communities in the form of a guaranteed minimal... They just want money. This is literally just give me money. Okay? This is literally the gimmeboo page. Reparations for the wealth extracted from our communities through environmental racism, slavery, and food apartheid. Food apartheid. They unironically wrote food apartheid. They seriously said that. Because there are certain neighborhoods that only have corner stores instead of a proper grocery store. That somehow is food apartheid. Housing discrimination and racialized capitalism in the form of corporate and government reparations. I really can't help myself. Policy brief coming soon. Yep, pretty much figured. Focused on healing ongoing physical and mental trauma, ensuring our access and control of our food sources, housing, and land. Reparations for cultural and educational exploitation, erasure, and extraction. So yeah, this is where they're just going to grab onto the Native American thing. That's what this really is. Legislation at the federal and state level that require the United States to acknowledge the lasting impacts of slavery, establish and execute a plan to address those impacts. It includes an immediate passage of H.R. 40. Oh, it's just, you just want us to do the stupid shit you had Australia do. No thanks. Seriously, but these guys literally, look, it just gets longer. Every single one. Invest, divest. We demand investments in education, health, and the safety of black people instead of investments in the criminalizing, caging, and harming of black people. We want investments in black communities, determined by black communities, and divestment from exploitative forces such as prisons, fossil fuels, police, surveillance, exploitative corporations. Dude, seriously, you guys just want money and self-control. You know we all want that, right? We just aren't all stupid enough to stand up and shout about it, right? They're working against the JAG. Seriously, long-term, a reallocation of funds from the federal state level from policing to long-term safety strategies such as education, local restorative justice services, and employment programs. Just don't ever arrest a black person. They didn't actually do anything wrong. They're just a victim of circumstance, 100%. Retroactive decriminalization, this is the one I love. Immediate release and record expungement of all drug-related offenses and prostitution, and reparations for the devastating impact of the war on drugs and criminalization of prostitution. But, so this is for everyone or just for black people? Just curious. Because it appears as though you just think the only people ever arrested in the war on drugs were black people. Because you're racist. Real, meaningful, and equitable universal health care. I don't understand. Again, you guys build these things around just a core of a point and then become completely retarded around it. This is the grain of sand upon which your shit pearl has been formed. A constitutional right at the state and federal level to a fully funded education, which includes a clear articulation of the right to a free education for all, special protections for queer and trans students always, wraparound services, social workers, free health services, including reproductive body autonomy, including abortions, you mean. A curriculum that acknowledges and addresses students' material and cultural needs, physical activity and recreation, high-quality food. You guys are so insane. How do you expect this to occur? We're just supposed to dump money on these places forever? You know we've been dumping money into these fucking communities for 40 years, right? This is where it's landed us. A divestment from industrial multinational use of fossil fuels. Okay, good luck. Sustainable energy solutions. We had that. It was called slavery, fuckwit. A cut in military expenditures and a reallocation of those funds to invest in domestic infrastructure and community well-being. So just cut military and give to black people. That's their solution. That's as good as they've gotten it. Here we go. Drug alliance. So just more garbage. Just more garbage. See, a constitutional amendment guaranteeing the right to fully funded education. You guys are insane. Just so you know, you guys are completely out of your fucking minds. Economic justice. We demand economic justice for all and a reconstruction of the economy to ensure then why do you need economic justice for all and then just to ensure black communities? Have collective ownership, not merely access. So like I said, why is it economic justice for all? That's not what you actually want. You want economic justice for black communities. That's your point. Stop trying to hide your point. It's not working very well because you guys are too blunt to be very good at this whole deception thing. A progressive restructuring of tax codes, like you would even understand that. Federal and state job programs. Those exist, by the way. Most federals and most states, at least I know, have job programs. I know this for a fact because my dad works for the state, and I've seen several other people in this state and several people in several of the states around here that are regularly hired straight out of jail or prison by the state. A right to restored land, clean air, clean water, and housing. And okay, this is literally just a right communism. We're literally just demanding that you give us no exploitative privatization of natural resources. Holy shit. Yeah, you guys are completely out of your minds. You guys are completely out of your fucking minds. The right for workers to organize. You have that. You have that. The on-demand economy doesn't have that because they own nothing. They literally own nothing. They're barely employees. Restore the Glass-Steagall Act to break up law. Okay, again, here's your sand. Here's your shit pearl. Sand, shit pearl. Sand, shit pearl. End of the yeah, okay. Renegotiation of all. Why aren't you voting Trump then? I don't understand. This is what Trump wants, guys. But you're voting for Hillary, who wants to make that more. You guys are retarded. through tax incentive loans and other government-directed resources, support the development of corporate or social economy networks to help facilitate trade across the black communities. Well, just black communities globally connected by what, white transportation and white communication networks? It's weird for you guys to talk like this. It really is. It's bizarre. Financial support of black alternative institutions, including policy that subsidizes and offers low interest, interest-free, or federally guaranteed low-interest loans to promote the development of cooperatives, food and residential, land trust. You know, people around here have done this. Poor people, poor white people around here have done this. They didn't get anything from the government. Imagine just doing something and not begging the government for help. Imagine that. Just seriously, imagine for 1 minute what your community would look like if you weren't sitting here on your fucking knees begging the society to change for you and just changing society. Just quietly going along changing society like most adults know how to do. Protections for workers. Again, you guys are sounding more and more like a revisionist communist party. It's kind of funny. In industries that are not appropriately regulated, including domestic workers, farm workers, and tipped workers, and for workers, many of whom are black women and incarcerated people who have been exploited and remain unprotected. This includes the immediate passage of the federal and state level of Domestic Workers' Bill of Rights. I will look that up later. I wish they had a link for me to click. I would love to fucking see what that looked like, because the rest of this has been completely off the chain. Community control. Hey, I was on community control once. That's advanced probation. I think that's not what you're talking about, though. We demand a world where those most impacted in our communities control the laws. It's totally shit. We literally want to put the crazy people in charge of the institution. We literally want to put prisoners in charge of the jails. That's what you're saying. From our schools to our local budgets, economies, and police departments, and our land. You don't have land. You have to own it. But in the previous one, you said you didn't want to do that. While recognizing that the rights and histories of our indigenous family must also be respected. You're literally holding up Native Americans to get shot at while you guys are trying to take the power. Seriously, you're literally just using indigenous families as a shield to make entry into this concept. It's really gross, but cool, keep it up. Direct democratic community control of local, state, and federal law enforcement agency. What? How do you have direct democratic community control of federal law enforcement? Please explain that to me. Please, help me understand how the fuck you think that's going to happen. Ensuring that communities most harmed by destructive policing have the power to hire and fire officers. Seriously. Just be able to walk up and be like, yo, that's it, you done, you fired, you done arrested Leroy, you done. Determine disciplinary action. Literally, we want mob rule. An end to the privatization of education and real community control by parents. This is all up to the parents and community leaders. You guys could do this at any time, but instead, you just want to be the new board of directors of the community, instead of actually just forming your own. Participatory budgeting. Yeah, I know, you want control of the budget. Congratulations, that's nothing new. Political power. We demand independent black political power and black self-determination in all areas of society. And we will be completely shocked and surprised at the rise of the demand for white political power and white self-determination in all areas of society. We'll be befuddled by this. We'll continue to call it racism in spite of the fact that we write sentences like this. Fucking morons. We envision a remaking of the current political system in order to create a real democracy, where black people and all marginalized people can effectively exercise full political power. In a country with a black president. Crying about places like Baltimore with entirely black elected leadership. An end to the criminalization of black political activity, including the immediate release of all political prisoners, and an end to the repression of political parties. Listen, if that's the case, you also have to stop demonizing the KKK and the new Knights of the Brotherhood. These are people you're going to have to start making public deals with, because these are the people you want to stop policing and stop criminalizing and stop making look like the bad guy. We're trying to make this better. You're trying to make this worse. I don't know why, but you are. Public financing of elections and the end of money controlling politics. Sand, shit pearl. Sand, shit pearl. Election protection, electoral expansion, and the right for all people. This is a good one. Including universal voter registration, automatic voter registration, pre-registration of 16-year-olds, same-day voter registration, voting day holiday. So if it's voting day, you get the day off. Enfranchisement of formerly and presently incarcerated people. Many states already do that. Many states. Local and state resident voting for undocumented people. Illegal aliens should not be allowed to vote. Why is this hard to fucking understand, you massive retards? Full access to technology, including net neutrality and universal access to internet without discrimination, and full representation to all. Let's see what they mean by that. So just give them broadband. That's what they're eventually going to say here. Just give them broadband. That's the first one. Holy shit. You know there are a lot of rural poor whites that have no internet at all, right? Holy shit, you guys are so selfish. You are such selfish little fucks. It is embarrassing to read this. It is really fucking embarrassing to read some of this. That you guys would write all this down. All this. And think you were saying something functional. Is embarrassing to the species I share with you. Protection and increased funding for black institutions. More gimme money. We got it. So basically, your whole movement, this entire thing, boils down to give us money, don't police us, and let us have our own political platforms. And when white people start doing this back, this will be your fault. Alright, ladies and gents, this has been fun. I'm gonna go do something else. Basically anything else, because all this did was serve to frustrate the shit out of me. So, I hope you guys at least had some fun. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back shortly enough. Stay safe, good luck, and goodbye.